What's going on, guys? Danny here from Metal Couch, and I'm back from Maryland Death Fest, and what do I find? Super Collider's leaked. It's all over the net. You should have no problem finding links to this album to have a test drive before you spend your hard-earned dollar on this album. And let me just preface this entire review with this. This is a review. It is my opinion. I want you to understand that before I get started. And this also applies to what I said about Super Collider and Kingmaker. Apparently some people cannot possibly understand that it is my opinion and is in no way, shape, or form a fact. That's just how my presentation goes. That's how I present my opinion, as if it is a fact to me. So, just want to get that out of the way so you people at home that are sitting there being fanboys understand that. On to the album. First two tracks that we open up with, Kingmaker and Super Collider, two singles. I've already said what I need to say about Kingmaker and Super Collider. Didn't like them at all. Track 3, Burn, opens up with Chris Broderick probably doing the most forced solo I've heard since he's been with Megadeth. This is such a... It's almost as if Dave just gave him instructions on what to play, and Chris followed those orders because he likes having a paycheck. Even though this man is immensely talented, his other work, whether it be with Jack Panzer or some of the stuff that he has on the internet, like with his guitar lessons, this man knows how to play. And I feel that Mustaine is holding him back, and the best example of this is the opening solo to Burn. And lyrically, this song is really not anything special. If you've ever wanted to hear Mustaine in probably one of the weakest, cheesiest forms saying, "Burn, baby, burn, this is the song for you," I immediately thought he would break out into Disco Inferno. Next song, Built for War. You know, I've listened to this album twice since it's leaked. And it's already a bad thing that I can't tell you a single memorable thing from Built for War, other than one really, really bothersome thing that Mustaine does, and he'll say a part of a verse, and then he'll really quickly cut in saying, "Built for War." It sounds extremely forced. I mean, it's bad. It's bad. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It's fucking bad. Off the Edge. Same thing applies with Built for War. We're going off the edge. Okay, you can go off the edge. I'll stay here and enjoy myself. Anyway, two non-memorable tracks. Nothing to see here. Dance in the Rain is where we begin to get into a part of the album that could be somewhat memorable, but memorable in a bad way. This is the first track that features David Draiman of Disturbed. I don't like Disturbed. I know very many people who do not like Disturbed. I think Disturbed is a bad band. I think Disturbed is a band for casuals. It's for people who don't like any sort of intelligence to go along with their instrumentation. That is my pretentious opinion about Disturbed. The same could also apply for Cookie Cutter Band Number 47, Slipknot, whatever. All of those bands. David Draiman takes over for the last few verses of this song. And the vocal effect that they use for him is so bad. It's like a mix between a Doppler effect and it's like if you've heard any Mastodon album when Scott Kelly does guest vocals, you take that sort of style and you put it with Mustaine's vocals and you add a sort of Doppler effect to it, and it just does not work with this man's vocal style, I guess. It's one of those songs, a trademark Mustaine track, where he's talking about how the government is overstepping its bounds and Big Brother and all of that, and he's letting his personal politics influence how he writes his music, which is his primary problem nowadays, and I've already touched on this subject. I don't need to go any further into it. The beginning of Sorrow. Well, the beginning of Sorrow happened when the first track started playing, in my opinion. again, nothing to see here. The Blackest Crow. This is going to be another memorable one for you. This is the Southern Rock Megadeth song. This is a song that opens up with banjos. I immediately thought that I was listening to a completely different album. Dave Mustaine and banjos do not mix. Slide guitar is, from what I saw in the studio previews of Super Collider, slide guitar is okay, I guess, but again, you've got Megadeth doing the beginning of a song with a fucking banjo. That's like, you know, if I were alive in 1986 when Peace Sells came out, and if you would have told me that in the year 1999 that Megadeth would have put out a disco song, I would have laughed in your face. In 1999, if you would have told me that Megadeth would eventually come out with a song that has a banjo in it, I probably would have laughed in your face. Well, it's happened. It's from taking the Blackest Crow. I mean, I'm jumping ahead here. From taking stuff like Dance in the Rain or previous tracks such as Burn, everything up to this point has had this sterile direction, monotone, and then you completely shift that paradigm into a country affair. It does not fit on this album whatsoever. Next, Forget to Remember. Mustaine has obviously forgotten how to write any good lyrics. Forget to remember. I don't know if Mustaine is having marital troubles, but that's exactly what is going on in this track. Forget to Remember is, I also believe, or is it the Blackest Crow? One of them has fucking David Draymond back on it. And this whole album kind of just started to blend together in my head as one giant clusterfuck at this point. And it's just, this album, I knew it was going to be bad. And I try not to go into an album thinking that it's going to be bad. But with 13 existing on this planet, and a follow-up to that with 2 preview tracks, one of them not even being a metal song, mind you, I honestly I can't find it in my heart to like anything off of this album. Don't Turn Your Back, track 10. You've heard this if you've been on the Megadeth website and done their little flash game. You've heard a nice little, the intro to Don't Turn Your Back, which you're probably thinking, yeah, you know, this sounds pretty fucking badass. This is fast beat, double bass going on here. And then we go into very damn close to a mainstream rock song, which, Don't Turn Your Back is the official album closer because the 11th track is Cold Sweat, a Thin Lizzy cover. And this is what I wanted from Super Collider. I can't believe I'm saying this, but Cold Sweat, the Thin Lizzy cover, is the best track off of Super Collider. It is the only track where I'm going, damn, this actually sounds pretty good. Mustaine drops his voice down for the pre-chorus, and it sounds fucking amazing. But it's a cover. It's not his own work, and it only lasts for a little over 3 minutes. This album is a fucking disaster. It's an even bigger disaster than 13. I honestly don't know what to think of Megadeth at this point, other than to stand by what I said in Kingmaker's video. This is an album that Mustaine put out to cash in on Megadeth fanboys for his retirement. I used to be a really big Megadeth fan. Somebody in the comments of the previous video said that I used to be a big Megadeth fan, but then I kind of sold out or something like that. No, that's not the reason why I say I used to be a big Megadeth fan. I used to be a big Megadeth fan because they used to have this standard of quality. And I don't know if it's the fact that Mustaine is off of heroin now, or if he's become this super reformed Christian. You know, you can pick whatever scapegoat that you want. Mine is this. This band has been alive since late 83 or 1984. Whichever. Can't remember at this point. It's irrelevant. The point is that they have been around for almost 3 decades. Not very many bands can last for 3 decades and consistently put out good material. Megadeth is one of those bands that has lasted for 3 decades, but cannot consistently put out good material. To me, the last solid album, and I mean solid as in I liked half of the tracks or more, which I would probably have to say I liked half the tracks off of the album I'm going to say Endgame. Endgame was the last solid album that Megadeth ever put out. Before that you had United Abominations, which was extremely preachy, political. It was Mustaine being a good old American Republican, and 13 being the remake album, a cash-in album to get out of their contract with Roadrunner. I think at this point they just need to retire. That's my opinion on Super Collider. I cannot recommend anybody listen to this album, and this is a hell of a way for me to have a downer after Maryland Death Fest, which, by the way, was awesome. Some very fucking good bands there. Super Collider is probably one of the worst albums that I've had to listen to in the history of this channel. I mean, I wouldn't say it's as bad as Metallica and Lou Reed's Lulu. That was pretty bad. But this is a blatant cash-in, and I feel sorry for any of the fans that comment on my videos and say that I don't get it and Megadeth are still awesome. Somebody told me and posted a comment, it wasn't malicious, but they said, I thought Super Collider was a pretty good rock and roll song. That's great. But Megadeth's not a rock and roll band. They never have been. People actively despise the era when they became a rock and roll band. I haven't met anybody who's like Euthanasia, Cryptic Writings, Risk, The World Needs a Hero, or even half of Countdown to Extinction for that matter. But I don't know. I guess it's like with Metallica. Metallica, you got the early days, then you got Metallica Black Album onwards. That's pretty much how it works. You got the people that hate early Metallica and love late Metallica, and then you got people like me who love early Metallica and hate later Metallica. That's pretty much what it boils down to. At this point, the only relevant albums for Megadeth's discography are the first 4. I could really care less if they put out another album at this point. If they put out another album, will I be reviewing it? Probably. Why? Because people ask me to do this. I mean, I didn't want to fucking review Super Collider. I had people ask me to do it. So I did it. I'm a nice guy. But I can't recommend this album to anybody. Next up, I've got a re-release of Septic Flesh's Esceptron, which I picked up at Maryland Death Fest about 3 weeks early before its release. Season of Mist were nice enough to let me purchase a copy early and at a discount. So that'll be up next time. Danny here from Metal Couch. Please don't buy this album.